welcome to week 3 of Neighboring. I want to share with you a quick story about something that happened with me and my wife when we went through our marriage counseling. We were told that if we were ever fighting, if we would take a minute and pray, that it would help us to find resolution, because it's really hard to pray for someone and not have your heart turned towards them and love them.
Yeah.
And I love the challenge this week that we're going to pray for our neighbors, because as we're learning to love them, again, it's hard not to love someone you're praying for. And
Really
as we're praying for those people around us, God's going to continue to turn our hearts towards them. And I think we're going to be surprised about the opportunities He's going to open up for us to interact with them more.
Yeah, you know, as you're praying, you're right. You're more aware of what God's doing, because, you know, in John chapter 5, it tells us, and Jesus says that, it says, my Father is always working to this day. And when he says he's always, that word literally means he's working right now. He's working in this moment. And so just think about that. As you're praying, God is opening your eyes up to see what he's doing in that very moment. And so if I'm out in my neighborhood and maybe I'm walking down the street and I'm praying, God is opening doors up that maybe we haven't seen yet, but we become more aware of them. And so that's what God really wants us to do. He wants us to be aware of what's happening. And prayer is key to that, because prayer tunes us into what God is doing. It gets our attention shifted. And so for us, practically speaking, there are a lot of ways to do that. You know, we can go through prayer walks. We're walking down the street and we're praying. Or you can have your map on your refrigerator so that you're praying through those different neighbors and their names, and maybe even know their kids' names. And what you'll begin to find to do is that the opportunities that you thought you could create, God naturally creates them. You know, as I began to pray and just ask God for opportunities for my neighbors next door, because they're relatively new in my neighborhood and I don't know them that well. I walked out my back door and I noticed there was a soccer ball in the pool. And so I grabbed it and was taking it just to drop it back over the fence. As I did, I saw the mother out there, and we actually began to have a conversation. And we had this conversation, it went on about 30 minutes, and we're talking about her family and our family and just all these things that are going on in real life. And it was so natural. You know, I didn't feel the pressure that, you know, I got to work the gospel in here somewhere. And because of that, I think it began to put her guard down, because she knows I'm a pastor, and she saw me, I think, more as a real person. Because what I'm learning as I pray is this is not a program. This is not something that we just do for a little while and then it's over. Is that as we begin to really engage and know that God is working, it really becomes a lifestyle. And so for me, it's taking a lot of pressure off, because I can just be Greg, the Greg that God created me to be. And that's the same for everybody that's watching, is that God really wants us to be what he designed us to be. His Spirit is in us, and his Spirit allows his love to flow through us. And as we pray, I think those opportunities naturally come up. And so as we're talking about praying, now what are some practical ways we can engage in this?
So I love this week. I love the idea of praying, again, because of how it turns our hearts to love. And so the challenge that we want to give this week is find creative ways.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a prayer walk in your neighborhood. Maybe it's just taking your map and every morning praying around that block. Maybe God puts someone specific on your heart each week. Whatever those ways are, pray. Discuss it in your group. Find creative ways. And we would love to hear what those are.
Yep. You know, and the last thing on that, though, is don't look for instant results. You know, sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes we want to pray and the next day we think, oh, there's the answer.
That's good.
So let God lead you in that process. And if you have to pray for a month, then pray for a month. Just keep bringing that person back up, because God is working. Remember, he's always working, even when we don't see him.
So my neighboring experience was pretty unique. I'm not in a neighborhood per se with homes. I live in an apartment. And, you know, the examples that were given of, you know, you bring your neighbor's trash up, or, you know, other examples that were given to show neighboring were kind of foreign to me in an apartment. I typically put my trash on my hood and drive it around to the dumpster. And so, but what I decided to do is walk my trash every week to the dumpster, which gave me ample opportunity to see and talk to neighbors since my building is right at the beginning of the complex. And the dumpster, of course, is all the way at the very end of the complex. And so that first week, it was pretty basic. I was just walking and, hoping with intention that somebody was coming outside that I can talk to. And I did meet one of my neighbors. She was sitting on her porch, and that was fun to talk to her. But then as the weeks progressed, I just asked God specifically, what is it that you want me to do besides just take my trash? There's an intention there. And he started imparting my spirit to pray for specific families in specific buildings. And it was just incredible. Like, I had no idea who these people were, but he knew, and he knew their needs. And he knew them to a point where he was appointing me to specifically pray for those needs. So it was so exciting because it felt like I was in on a surprise, like something was about to happen in their family that was going to be so incredibly miraculous and so spirit-led, and I was in on it, and they didn't even know. And so it was really cool. It was really cool to just meet the neighbors that I met as a result of it. And I just really enjoyed it. And the neighboring, it continues because now I'm not afraid to approach a neighbor, and I do it boldly, and I ask if they need prayer. And, I've invited them to church and invited them to our mobile pantry and the things that we have going on in the church.